Supervisor Gable? Did Skaliski call anybody? Is it to say excused, or what do I do?
Don't say anything.
Okay. I had an oversight on the previous meeting. I'd like to have an adjournment of that meeting. Can someone give me an adjournment in a second, please? Second. Okay, we've got a motion from Supervisor Hallman, a second from Vice Chair Bruning. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. We'll call this meeting to order now, the regular meeting of June 3rd, 2014. Roll call of supervisors, please. I don't have to. Okay, at this time, citizen comments. Citizen comments. Citizen comments. Citizen comments are closed. Announcements of the chair. I'd like to welcome Rihanna Ritley, our youth and governance, who's in our chambers here. Thank you for coming out tonight. I have a opening on the Pringle Nature Center board. If anybody is interested, come up and see me after the meeting tonight. I'd also like to welcome our new partners in business, Kendall Manufacturing and Incinerator, for coming to Kenosha County. We welcome them. And that's all I have for my reports. We're opening up to supervisor reports. Supervisor Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had our monthly meeting out at the Highway 50 and 45 complex for Highways and Parks. Quite a few items on the agenda just to bring you up to speed. The 60th Street Tower, which has long been worked on and discussed, is in its very final process. As of yesterday, all 6 licenses that are necessary to transmit and receive at that tower were approved. They're looking for a hookup July 14th, and that's when it should be operational, so I'll keep you posted on that. In terms of the Ewell House, which is the former Corporation Council residence, that has an inspection that was set for actually today. I think it may have been postponed. There's just some issues with the purchaser needing to sell their house in, I believe, California, San Diego area. But it's all going according to plan, and it should still be on track to be done in the near future. We'll keep you posted on that. Restoration project that involves this building. You may have seen the workers down on the pole doing some foundation. It's on schedule. We're looking forward to that being completed at the end of October. And other discussions last night involving highway. We have a closure which is going to affect quite a bit of traffic on the southwest side of Kenosha, and that's going to be County C and H intersection is going to be closed beginning the 16th of this month and probably through Labor Day. There'll be quite a bit of construction going on, so as you all know, that's a high volume traffic area. You may want to alert people who pass through there that that's going to be the plan. Urban mowing. We have the medians, for example, on Green Bay Road, which is technically state property. That's their jurisdiction. They were so frugal in past years. Last year, they paid us 1 time per year to mow those medians, which basically is a traffic hazard due to not being able to see clearly. That has been modified that up to 9 times per year we can mow state right-of-ways and become reimbursed. So kind of a win for us there. We're moving on to parks now. There's going to be a public information hearing about a proposed, or I should say the existing Pike Creek Bridge due for renovation in 2016. The information for the meeting will occur Summers Town Hall, Thursday, 12th of this month June 12th, from 4:30 to 6:30. Anybody who has concerns about the rebuilding of that Pike Creek Bridge can attend that. Moving on to parks. There are two properties in Petrifying Springs that were former buildings. They're in the process of being burned and razed. The first one, called the Thompson Residence, was actually burned on May 17th. There is another burning schedule that's called the Old Park Residence. That's on the 7th of this month, 9 a.m. So anyone who wants to witness a demonstration burning, I believe the fire department's involved with that, and you can get your fill of the pyromania if you're so inclined. Also in parks, one of the most interesting things to report is in Pets, the Hill Road, which bisects the golf course, had originally been intended to be rebuilt, and the engineering, construction, the whole thing would have cost the better part of $750,000 to have that be done. Well, between Public Works and our county executive taking a creative look at this, it was decided that instead of having vehicular traffic on there, which has its own set of standards, engineering, that type of thing, it would be restricted to basically foot transportation, bicycles, that type of thing. And the price dropped down to, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's right in the low to mid $200,000 range. That is complete, it is done. I saw people on it this past weekend, smiles from ear to ear, most pleased that they can use that again. Still a little bit of grading to do on the shoulders, but we're basically complete with that. Along with parks, we still have a couple other items, and that is the Kemper Pier removal was scheduled to start earlier this month. I believe they're going to take that out. It's kind of a decrepit structure. There's been some issues with that as far as safety goes. They are going to be starting mountain bike trails, dedicated mountain bike trails at Silver Lake Park. We're having some volunteer effort that's coming in, and they're going to go for 9 straight days and build as much at one time as they can so that people who favor that type of recreation will have a dedicated place to go and not conflict with those others who are using the same space. Lastly, golf. Golf is doing pretty well, kind of a slow and damp start to the spring, as you're well aware. But with this weather, we've had some good turnouts. Looks like the management is pretty aggressive out there with the whole demo days for these club promotions. Manufacturers come in and they'll bring their wares for people to try different golf clubs and play with them for free of charge. The first Nike demo day had $4,000 worth of sales, so they're making some efforts with marketing and so forth there. Course conditions appear to be good. I personally play in a league out there on Wednesdays, and I can't recall the course being in better shape currently than what I've seen it. So they're doing a good job out there. Some various other things that are still in the works, but those will wait till next time. Conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Grady. Supervisor Rose?
Thank you, and board members, if you haven't read the article at page 3 of the Kenosha News today, I highly recommend it. It has to do with new EPA rules, which will have, I think, a great impact on economic development in this county and the state because we have 62% of our energy derived from coal-powered power plants, and there is a substantial cut, according to the rules, in carbon dioxide emissions from those plants. Since we have one of those plants in this county, and Wisconsin has 62% of the energy derived from those plants, that could have a tremendous cost to the ratepayer, and one of the side effects could be the economic development restrictions in this state. So this is an issue, Mr. Chairman, that I think needs to be looked at by county government. Granted, this doesn't take full effect to the year 2030, but that's 15 and a half years. We don't want to end up 2030 leaving this all in the hands of the Wisconsin Energy. This government certainly, and we have a big role to play in this because economic development is really the heart of our future economically in southeastern Wisconsin. I would hope that the executive committee, which deals with legislation, or if there is a legislative committee in the future, take a look at this issue.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Gens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to Supervisor Grady, I'm used to this report happening right in my ear, so I didn't quite hear what you had to say about the sale of the Yule House. Is there an issue with the property for sale in San Diego, or?
To Supervisor Gens, the details are as follows. They've been having some wildfires out in the San Diego area where these prospective buyers have their residence. One of the contingencies in the real estate contract calls for them to be able to sell their residence before purchasing, or to sell it at the same time they purchase this. So I guess it's a very nice house, it's very desirable, but the real estate people can't get the prospective buyers into that area due to wildfires. At least that's the information I've been given. But that is now on the wane, that's being taken care of, so they expect the situation to resolve, and they expect no impediment to the sale of the Yule House.
Okay, thank you. Also, I'd like to report at our last joint services meeting, the only thing that really was pertinent that I can report is that the evaluation committee for the public safety software is meeting this week with one of the two final vendors, hoping to narrow it down to one to bring it to the joint services board. So that is an ongoing situation that I'll keep you abreast of. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gens. Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Human Services Committee met yesterday at 6:30 in the evening. We welcomed and greeted and heard from our two brand-new Youth and Governance members. The committee addressed two appointments on the agenda. One is a reappointment to the Brookside Board of Trustees, our very own Edna Highland, and someone new to the Board of Health, I believe Dr. Margaret Hodge, if I recall the name correctly, who's a veterinarian. Both of those will come before this body, I believe, at the next meeting. Dr. Hodge said something very interesting last night. I don't know how many of you have paid attention to what's been going on in the world of health, but there's really been two major issues. One is the issue of superbugs. The other is the issue of disease and viral transmission from animals to humans. And so I asked her a little bit about that, and so she talked about deer ticks and Lyme disease, and there was actually a news report on NPR this evening that talked about how that's growing, particularly in urban areas in southeast Wisconsin, which is something that really has not happened before. And so she actually suggested last night that were she to be able to be on the Board of Health, that she would actually consider writing a blog and work with some of the other local doctors in the area, whether it was general practitioners, pediatricians, and so forth, to talk about some of these issues. And that would be something that not only us as supervisors, but certainly the residents of our county would have access to and be able to see and read. It's something that I don't believe anyone in our government is doing, and it would be incredibly smart for us to take her up on that offer. For those of you who are unfamiliar about the role of the health department, particularly when there is something like a disease outbreak or, something even as simple as flu shots, it's really the Board of Health that helps provide guidance to the health department about disseminating vaccines and getting information out there to the general public. They are really the first line of defense and have a very strong line of contact with the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. So we should not take her offer lightly. Additionally, the issue of the Badger Care expansion was supposed to be on the agenda. Due to some staffing issues, we were not able to take that up. We will see what happens with that. It may be wise to send it elsewhere, should it be the prerogative of anybody here who wishes to address that. Beyond that, I know I had talked a little bit about the restructuring of the monthly update for folks who are unfamiliar. In the last term, our Human Services Division heads and our director were asked to provide us with updates about some of the various programs that were going on. Many times, we as a county board would approve grants and not necessarily hear back about the results of those. If we did hear back, it was oftentimes much later than what we could recall doing because there's so much that would come in front of us. So the monthly update was a way for them to basically keep us informed of the progress of things. I did send out a letter to Mr. Jansen earlier in this term, basically asking him to say maybe we could have a little more stability about what would pop up in those monthly updates because the content of them was changing from one to the next. So I haven't quite figured out exactly what might be helpful for us in terms of wanting to see on a consistent basis. Aside from some of the unemployment figures, I haven't had the time to dedicate to sit down and go through each area and each program and figure out what it is that might be useful for us. I will say if there's something that anyone in this body thinks would be helpful to see some data on consistently from month to month, please email me. Don't hesitate to do that if there's something that you're curious about, and we can make sure that that gets in front of your eyes. Beyond that, there was an email release from NACO about the Workforce Investment Act reauthorization, known as the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, House Resolution 803. They have asked all of the counties to send a letter or place a phone call or an email to your elected representatives in Washington to say that you support it. We've made great use of the Workforce Investment Act money, particularly in this county, to provide education to our residents that we're leaving one sector of the economy in terms of employment and looking to go to another. So it behooves us to do this. Also, we're one of the few workforce development boards where it's not necessarily run by another entity, but it's actually local governments looking at their economies, making the policy decisions, and trying to work with educational institutions to figure out where best to place that money. And I'm sure as you've seen of that, as the result of that is that, you know, our economy has grown substantially in terms of who we have coming in as employers versus our partners in our Workforce Development Board, namely Racine and I believe Walworth County. So if you want information on that, feel free to email me or give me a call or stop me on your way out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Hallman. Seeing no other lights, we'll go on to county executive appointments. County Clerk.
Sharonda Glass to serve on the Kenosha County Workforce Development Board.
Refer to Human Service Committee.
New business, Resolution 12, from the Public Works Facility Committee, a resolution approving intergovernmental agreement with City of Kenosha and Town of Paris for transfer of jurisdiction of a segment of County Highway N. Public Works Facility Committee, Alverman excused, Grady yes, Boyd Frederick excused, Skalitsky yes, Poole yes.
Supervisor Grady.
Move resolution number 12.
It's been moved by Supervisor Grady, seconded by Supervisor Poole. Supervisor Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a technical detail involving Highway N, close to and adjacent to the interstate and about a mile or so west of there. It will be torn up by the city so they can install sewer and water, and in doing so, the road will be put back to their specification, but it'll also come off our responsibility. They will be doing the expense of maintaining the road from this point forward, and it's a good thing for the county in the sense that we have less road mileage to maintain, so I would urge your approval.
Okay, seeing no lights, this requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. County Clerk.
Resolution 13 from Judiciary and Law Committee, a request to approve the appointment of Mark Midori to the Kenosha County Joint Services Board. Judiciary and Law, Esposito, yes. Anita Johnson, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Blau, yes. Poole, yes.
Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Chairman. I move Resolution 13.
It's been moved by Supervisor Esposito, seconded by Supervisor Ron Johnson. Supervisor Esposito.
This resolution is for Mr. Mordori to succeed himself in the reappointment, and he was last appointed in 2012. There was 25 meetings. He attended 24, with one only absence being excused. He will serve without pay and will succeed himself. I urge your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing you have a light up. Do you have a light on yet, or? Supervisor Gens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that Supervisor Midori has worked with us for 2 years, and he uses logic when he makes his decision, and he's an asset to the board. So I think whether it's city-county appointment, I think he really does a good job on that committee. His only absence was last week when he hurt his arm, so he does attend everything. So I just wanted to lay that out to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gens. Requires a voice vote. No other lights are on. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously.
Summons and complaint. Robert Vines Jr., civil rights complaint.
Refer to Corp Counsel.
Approval of the minutes from the May 20th meeting by Supervisor Colmeyer.
Motion to approve the May 20th minutes as written.
It's been approved by Supervisor Callmeyer, seconded by Supervisor Esposito. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Can I get a motion for adjournment? It's been moved by Supervisor Rick Dodge, seconded by Aaron Decker, Supervisor. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.